Hello, and welcome to the December 2023 check-in for my Tottenham Hotspur 2022-23 goalkeeper kit quest. As I just said, we're at the end of December, beginning of January, because we had a match on December 31st. So if you finish the match, it automatically moves to the next day. But so I'm gonna go over this first half of the 2023-2024 campaign in terms of results, standings, transfer window, whatnot, board goals, all that good stuff. Kind of to see where we're at halfway through the season and kind of where I'm thinking we're going to be going in the second half of the season, where we can end up with more trophies and whatnot. So, in terms of how I covered the board objectives first, that's kind of the most whatever thing. Go to the youth development. They didn't give us a new objective for this season. There was a short-term one. So that was the one with the check mark was the one we completed last season. The long-term goal, as I kind of said before, don't really care about it all. I've been getting the emails from the board oh, you gotta complete this youth development objective or whatever, but I don't really care about it, so it's gonna go uncompleted. Brand exposure, the short-term goal, which I honestly don't know if we're gonna be able to complete just because of how we're doing this. It's got a streak of 5 clean sheets in away matches, just in the league too, not just in any type of match. It has to be Premier League matches. The best I've gotten, as you kind of see here, at any point is 1 clean sheet. Can't follow it up with a second or a third or anything like that. So this one, I'll try my darndest, but just because of how the format works, with me playing some games, simming some games, and all that jazz, it's probably not going to happen. But which is kind of is what it is. This is a really highly specific objective that it's going to be pretty hard to complete, I would think, unless you're going to play every game, kind of thing. For the long-term objective, it's within 3 seasons on 4 of the best players in the world, which FIFA qualifies as having an overall of 82 or above. And as you can see, we've already signed in this first half a season. Basically one transfer window. We've signed 2 of the 4 needed to complete the requirement. Who those 2 are, you might have seen kind of briefly who one of them might have been, as little news items are flashing across the screen. But I'll go over that when we go over the transfers. Financial is just the same one, because it was a multi-season objective, which was to increase the club worth by 25%, which we have completed that objective, which is good. Domestic success, the Premier League, they want us to win the title. As you kind of see, spoiling a little bit the standings kind of section, we're currently second in the Premier League. And the FA Cup, as it was last season, is to win the cup. If we win it, we win it. We don't, we don't. Kind of want to win it this year just because we didn't win it last year. Or, Hugo's career is kind of running out of time. In continental success, they want us to reach the final, which kind of makes sense given the fact that we won the Champions League last season. As you can see, we're kind of along the way there. We've made it to the knockout stages, so hopefully the matches in there kind of go our way. But kind of going to standings. Our next match is an FA Cup match, so that's probably gonna be the first thing that pulls up. But we're gonna go here first. The first kind of thing we went competed for this year was the FA Community Shield against Manchester City, who won the FA Cup. As you can see, we kind of got demolished, 5-1 to Manchester City in the Community Shield. Basically, what happened was I did my whole last 5 results in the randomizer. Whatever comes out comes out, and it was Sim, which isn't surprising considering we haven't had that many great results against Manchester City recently. And 12 minutes, 13 minutes or so into the match, Pedro Porro, his little circle went near a circle on a Manchester City player, and it was a red card. So he got sent off 13 minutes into the match. Kind of made things janky as hell for 80 minutes of the match, and Manchester City kind of carved us apart. Though I will say, I think they either scored right after that or were already 1-0 up, and we were able to equalize it at 1-1. With I'm pretty sure it's either Harry Kane goal with a son assist or the other way around. But then after that, they kind of just carved us apart and won the Community Shield 5-1. But we had our chance to get revenge because Manchester City, as you remember me kind of saying, won the Europa League, we won the Champions League, so that means we met a couple of days later in the UEFA Super Cup, which is here. As you can see, we won the Super Cup 2-1. That was also a sim, kind of slow sim with little circles moving around the screen and all that jazz. And that was Manchester City. I'm pretty sure it was 3 or 4 minutes into the match, score with a Holland goal. But we were able to rally from behind and Son scored a brace with 2 Harry Kane assists, kind of a classic for Spurs. And even only having 35% of the ball, we were able to win the UEFA Super Cup 2-1. So we kind of opened the season with another piece of silverware. Excuse me. Our third piece of silverware in total for this career mode, which I'd say is pretty good going into it. I was kind of hoping maybe we would win one piece of silverware, but we already gotten 3, so I'd say it's pretty good. Pretty good haul. The kind of footage of us like celebrating that will be kind of featured shown at the end of the episode, so you can kind of watch that and enjoy, I guess. Kind of. So moving on from those two kind of beginning of the season competitions, we'll move. Let's do the cup competitions first. First, the Carabao Cup. We got matched up against Newcastle. Where is it? Here we go. Newcastle in the round 3 of the Carabao Cup, which is a pretty harsh thing considering they finished pretty high and I'm pretty sure in a Champions League spot in the Prem in the 2022-23 season. This career mode, I simmed that game because that's how the randomizer kind of spit it out, and we couldn't score. They scored twice. We lost. Is what it is. I was hoping to win the Carabao Cup this season, but the fates and the sim engine, all that randomness jazz, said no thank you. Tottenham Hotspur, you're not going to get the Carabao Cup this season. FA Cup, as you can kind of see, that's our next match, which I guess schedule makers in this game find very funny. We were facing Newcastle away again. I'm pretty sure the first one was away also. The Carabao Cup, let's check that. Yeah, Carabao Cup match was also away. So it's basically a rematch of the Carabao Cup. So hopefully either I could play it and I can win so we can move on to the FA Cup, or Sim Engine, because we lost that one, will hand us one, because we're probably relatively easily matched in terms of like the rosters and whatnot as they go. So hopefully we can move on to round 4 of the FA Cup. Now kind of the meat of everything. The 2 big competitions are the Premier League, which here we go. As you can see, we're doing pretty good. We are second in the Premier League with 45 points, only 2 points off the leaders, Manchester United. So if we can kind of pick up a win, maybe not in our next fixture because it seems to be against Manchester City, but if we could pick up like a result that they drop, we could probably leapfrog them, though it is pretty tight right behind us with Arsenal, Man City, Newcastle, Chelsea, and Liverpool all basically within 3 points of us. So if we drop a result and they pick up a result, they'll be equal to some points. Though most of them, besides Arsenal, probably couldn't leapfrog us because we have a pretty good goal differential compared to them. But we're kind of in and amongst it in the title race. Hopefully, second half of the season, we can kind of get in a good winning run and whatnot, and hope Manchester United again, slip up, and we can win our second straight Premier League title, which would be nice. Champions League, as you kind of saw with the objectives, we did make it out of the group stage into the knockout round. In terms of the group stage, here's our group. It was us, Napoli, Copenhagen, how you want to say it, and Sporting. So Sporting, who we faced in the group stage last season, and Napoli, who we faced in the round of 16 last season. We're kind of back for revenge in the group stage, but once again, we topped the group this time, though. We weren't 6-0. We were 6-5 wins, 1 draw. Pretty sure the draw came against Sporting. Let me just double check that. In my little handy-dandy spreadsheet. Yeah, the draw was the away fixture at Sporting, 2-2 draw with Kane and Skip goals, which also featured Bentancur getting suspended for the game against Sporting at home with a accumulation of yellow cards suspension. So that was good, so we kind of had a good time winning. It was a mixture of simming and playing a little bit here, a little bit there, because Napoli and Copenhagen, Tottenham, as far as I can tell through my Googling and internet searching and whatnot, have never played Napoli or Copenhagen in a competitive match of any sort. So for that, I kind of did those 2 play, 1 reroll, 2 sim in the randomizer list, and what happened. And Sporting, the only 2 times you actually played them in real life were, excuse me, in the IRL group stages of the 2022-2023 Champions League season. And in real life, Tottenham lost a match against Sporting in the group stage and drew a match against Sporting in the group stage. So I sent both those matches because there's no point putting in the randomizer because the only outcome really is to send the match. As you can see, the round of 16 draw has occurred, and we are facing Benfica from Portugal. Not really sure if they've ever played Spurs before, so the randomizer could be anything depending on how we play them, or if we haven't, whatever. So it's yet to be seen. I haven't really looked into it yet because the match isn't for a little while. So we'll see. You'll find out what happens, kind of in the end of season recap. Now, kind of the last kind of thing to look at really is the squad, and you can already tell from looking at some of this like the default team management screen that there have been some pretty significant changes to the squad in terms of who's in the starting 11 and whatnot. So kind of go over our transfers. We did a lot more transfers, both in and out. Well, not really in, because we only brought 3 players in. Oh, no, we brought 4, so 1 more than last season. But a lot of transfers out. So one is we kind of talked about at the end of their season recap. Last season was Ivan Perisic, £7 million, went to Lazio. Pretty much just the window opened because we did that in between seasons kind of thing. But here, hold on a second. Let me just I gotta just like go to the squad screen, so I kind of like to scroll up and down through it. You're gonna see who's where. But we transferred out 10 players. This transfer window kind of, well, 8 were like during the actual opening of the summer transfer window, and 2 were after the transfer window closed, but before the January window, and they just shipped out because the calendar moved over to January 1st and like reloaded in the game, so they kind of moved clubs, I think at least. But the 10 transfers out. First one was Lewis Dunk. He only had 2 years left of his contract. He's 31. He was pretty much only brought in to kind of fulfill the like sign a veteran player objective that the board gave us last season. So he went out. And where is he? There he is, Joe Rodon. Joe Rodon came back from his loan at Rennes. He's a homegrown player. He's already kind of with the club. He's a lot younger. He has a potential that's, and I'm pretty sure it's 80, so it's pretty much the same as Lewis Dunk. So that's why I was like, pretty much, why not just get some funds for Dunk and kind of just keep Rodon around, and let him kind of take up the spot as Todibo's backup at the center back. So Lewis Dunk went out for £17 million, so basically net neutral. So we bought him for £17 million, we sold him for £17 million to Manchester United. Next one was Sergio Reguilon, came back from his loan with Atletico Madrid, and after kind of rejecting transfers from some clubs, not being able to negotiate with some others, we eventually sold him basically back to where he was on loan at Atletico Madrid for £33 million. Didn't need to bring in a replacement despite both him and Perisic leaving, because Destiny Udogie came back from his loan and is kind of smashing it out as our starting left wing back kind of until he's only has 2 years left in his deal, and he'll probably end up being sold. Not sure who really I can bring in. I think Mendy, who plays for Real Madrid in real life. He used to play for either Lyon or Nice. I don't think he thinks he's sadly just a left back, not a left wing back. But that's kind of here and there because left wing back's a pretty rare position in the game. So he'll probably, because he fits our like, kind of requirements as I've kind of mentioned before, so he'll probably be brought in for Destiny Udogie. But we didn't need to actually bring anyone in this window to replace Reguilon or Perisic. The next transfer out was longtime club servant Ben Davies. He was sold for £12 million to Real Sociedad out in Spain, and that kind of left a hole behind / in front of Clement Longley to be our kind of backup, potentially future starting left center back in the back 3. And as you can kind of see right underneath him, who we brought in to replace Ben Davies is someone who Tottenham has kind of been linked with in real life and kind of turn times to potentially come to the club. But his price is probably going to be mad high because his recent performances in real life, but in the game it's not the same, is Jared Branthwaite from Everton. So we brought him in for a pretty low fee of £4 million with a 12% sell-on clause. So if we were able to sell Jared Branthwaite, Everton would get 12% of the transfer fee that we get. but that's not going to happen. So I thought it was a pretty decent negotiation. Next up was was Lucas Moura, who I sold to Fulham for £11.7 million. And as I kind of mentioned in the end of last season, his replacement wasn't someone out from outside the club, it was someone from inside the club. It was the man, the myth, the lazy legend, Tanguy Ndombele. Because despite being a kind of center defensive mid and center attacking mid, kind of here in those little positions, his best fit on like the pitch, and any kind of like position you can kind of create using the formations and whatnot, is attacking midfield, which is what we have our wingers kind of set up as in game. So he fits perfectly in the right attacking mid spot. He could play on the left, either or, but most people playing him on the right. Kind of sees to replace Lucas. He's honestly done pretty decently, not gonna lie. He's chipped in some goal contributions. Let's look at his stats real quick. Oh, nope, because the game is glitchy. They're not showing them, so I just loaded in. Let's scroll back. Where is he? Tanguy Ndombele. Played 15 matches, mostly off the bench, a couple of starts, 2 goals and assist. 1 goal, which I don't have the footage for, because it was like the whole picture that I wanted to see didn't really kind of show up in the replay that the FIFA shows, but is at the end of a 5-0 drubbing of Middlesbrough, who's one of the promoted clubs this season. Basically, it's like 90. It was like in the added time at the end of the game. The Reese got the ball, I think from either like a back pass or a weak attempt from a Middlesbrough attacker. He got the ball, punted it all the way out to Ndombele on the right hand side of the pitch, like long way up. And I dribbled as Ndombele and kind of like dribbled up the side, cut into the middle of the box, and slotted it home on the near post. So he's kind of contributing both in the sim and through me playing a little bit. But next up on the chopping block was Giovanni Lo Celso, however you want to say it. Didn't really need to bring anyone in to replace him, so there's no one to talk about there, but we sold him for £36 million. Excuse me. To AC Milan out in Serie A, which I'd say is pretty good price for him considering he didn't really play for us at all in this save. Next up, which is kind of one of our bigger transfers in terms of the incoming player relative to the outgoing player, we sold Pierre-Emile Højbjerg for £45 million to Napoli, so we were able to kind of face him again in the Champions League. And to kind of replace him with one of the 2 players that kind of counted for that signing one of the best players in the world board objective, and it was Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle. We brought him in for excuse me, an £80.8 million transfer fee. And you're like wondering, he's Brazilian, how does he count for objectives? He was bought by Newcastle a couple of seasons ago or a year or 2 ago from Lyon in real life. So he's an ex-Lyon player. So he fits our theme and objectives, and he kind of also then fit the board objective. So he was kind of like a double whammy there. So he's been really good for us since coming over. So a really crucial goal against Newcastle, who, as you can see, fall down the table a little bit and from looking at the standings, but we were kind of neck and neck, 1-2, battling it out. And he scored an extremely crucial goal against his old club to have us win that match and put us ahead of them in the standings. So you kind of see here, only 26 matches. He's already got 8 goals, 6 assists, which from kind of the midfield in our kind of very defensively minded system, kind of Conte system, is pretty excellent, I would say. So he's doing really well. It's been a huge signing for us. Next up was a kind of smaller one, was Harry Winks, sold to Leeds United on the last day of the window for £4.5 million. And then our other really big, kind of our second, of our 2 really big ones in terms of outgoing in terms of price, was Pedro Porro, got sold to Leicester City for £130 million, which is absolutely insane, at least to me. So, like, who did we replace him with all that money? We did not replace him at all. What I've been doing kind of is Emerson's been starting in his spot. He's been doing pretty decently. He has a couple of goals. Let me see here. Yeah, he's got 3 goals, 1 assist, pretty decent for a pretty defensively minded player. And the backup is Jed Spence. So he'll come in usually most games when I play just because of how intensive their running is for the wing back. So usually end up subbing both the backups in around the 60-minute, 70-minute mark to get some minutes and to kind of relieve the tired legs for our current ones. So he hasn't had any goal contributions yet, but he's been solid defensively. He's made some good runs going forward with the ball and passing it off to other people who then pass it to someone who scores, who kind of has like the secondary hockey assists on some goals and whatnot. But he's been pretty good. His morale is at the highest, but kind of is what it is, which I don't really understand either because he plays a decent amount. At least I would say for a player whose role is rotation. But he's not happy with his play time, but that's kind of here nor there. It'll be fine. And then our last two transfers were two really big ones. First, which were the ones that kind of left at the beginning now because it's now January 1st and replaced the two players. First one was Dejan Kulusevski, who, to be honest, was smashing out for us this season. He had, let me go to my thing. I think he had like, yeah, in 25 matches he played for us this season, he had 9 goals, 4 assists, which is pretty big. But he had one left year on his deal. He didn't really fit our criteria, so I moved him out. And who did I bring in to replace him? I think because if the players moved around, he should be in here in the game. Let me scroll down. Boom, there he is. Michael Olise from Crystal Palace. His potential isn't as good as Kulusevski's, but it's still pretty decent with his potential's like 84, 85-ish, which is a little bit lower than Kulusevski's, which is like 86, I think. But he's homegrown, which fits the kind of requirement for bringing players in. He's homegrown, so which helps that out. And he's technically a French international, even though he is homegrown, which kind of helps kind of fit more thematically in. And I really like Michael Olise as a player in real life. I really rate him. He's pretty special. If he wasn't made of glass IRL, which I don't think he has the trait. Yeah, I don't think he has any traits. I don't think. Does he? Oh, he does have a bunch. But none of them, in this at least, are made of glass injury prone, which kind of is IRL. But I'd really rate him. If Spurs signed him in real life, I would be ecstatic, but kind of hesitantly ecstatic just because of his injury issues. But he's good. He's been fantastic for Crystal Palace this season when he's been healthy, and I really like him. So I was like, he fits a bunch of the criteria and whatnot. Let's bring him in. I think his number I probably have to change to something else, but that's kind of here nor there. And the last one, which is kind of a little heartbreaking to do, but kind of to fit the theme of this thing, it helps kind of makes one save different from another. Kind of spice things up for me personally, at least, was I did something Tottenham probably will never do. Maybe they will, but not for a while. Maybe is I sold Heung-Min Son, Sonny, one of the faces of this club, huge player for Tottenham, but because he didn't really fit the criteria, only had 2 years left in his deal, I sold him for, let me just double check here, for £137.3 million to kind of in real life, Tottenham sold before the start of this current 23-24 season in real life, they sold Harry Kane, club legend, to Bayern Munich. In this kind of virtual world career mode save, we sold Sonny to Bayern instead. So he's now kicking it in the Bundesliga, where he kind of started his European football career. So he's probably smashing it out for Bayern in the Bundesliga, and probably in the Champions League and whatnot. So we'll see him in the Champions League. But if not, excuse me, sorry. It's no big deal. But who we bring in to replace him? It was the second player that kind of fit the best in the world criterion, and it was Lucas Paquetá from West Ham. Who I had no problem really swiping a player from West Ham. And they probably really wouldn't sell to us IRL, but we offered them plenty of money, so he fits our criteria in the game. And I rate him somewhat, but he has been off form recently in real life, but that's besides the point. Is Lucas Paquetá. He also like Bruno played for Lyon before getting his move to West Ham, so he kind of fills those criteria that way too. Which is kind of interesting if you kind of think about it. I guess Lyon has some good connections to get kind of young players in from Brazil and kind of develop them, nurture them, and sell them off for big profits to Premier League or other teams around the continent. But so he's going to fit in on the left-hand side, kind of next to Lise behind Kane on the wings in this system. He should be pretty decent at that because it gave his attacking mid, and that's the kind of position that we're looking for that in the game. So that's the last transfer we've done. With that, there aren't, I'm pretty sure. Let me just scroll over. Yeah, there aren't any players. The only player who I think left that kind of like had to do something about is Brandon Austin, who has 1 year left in his deal, kind of like 6 months or so now. But he's going to be re-upped to a new contract just because he fits the club train and homegrown quota crap. And he can kind of be potentially our backup keeper next season. Probably not though, because if I scroll up, let me scroll up. Went too far. There's Hugo Release, who's overall hasn't declined at all yet this season, so that's good. So hopefully we'll have 1 or 2 more years with him at the helm before the career comes to an end. But Fraser Foster is overall, you can kind of see is slowly climbing down to an end. He is retiring at the end of the season. So Brandon Austin could be our backup keeper just in general, but it'll probably end up being I'll probably have to like find some like 73, 74, 70 something overall like older keeper to replace Fraser Foster and keep Brandon Austin as the third string for all the homegrown quota nonsense. So Fraser Foster also hasn't really played it all this season for us. Brandon Austin has a couple of times in the Champions League. Kept one clean sheet, had a pretty good game in the other one. As you see with his average rating being 8.05, which is pretty good. See Hugo Lloris here. 28 appearances, 2 assists, which I only know the one that I sorry. Only know the one that I did in the game against Middlesbrough that I kind of mentioned earlier. So he must have had another one in a simulated Premier League game, and 8 clean sheets so far, which is pretty good, I would say. In terms of in general stats, let's just look real quick. Top of the goal charts is Harry Kane, 17 goals, 12 which are the Prem, 5 assists. Kind of behind him would have been Kulusevski and Son, but they're moved on, so they're kind of 9 goals or 8 goals each aren't really on the board here. So at least we have Bruno here with 8. Emerson Paquetà's stats, I'm going to have to write these down actually, now that I'm seeing them here, so I can like tabulate stuff correctly for my spreadsheet. But hopefully Paquetá and Elisa here, these numbers will be a lot bigger than the 3 and 2 that they are now. But I do have to write this down. But they should be a lot bigger and kind of help contribute to the offense, as long as with Bruno, Udogi, and Real, and Dembele, Richarlison, all those other guys, they should be good. Last kind of thing I guess I can touch on is probably some of the loan players. And the one injury you kind of see down there. CPU player, Real, but doesn't matter. Let me over here. Excuse me. Another CPU player. So I guess we're going to touch on the injury first, is Japhet Tanganga. He's been kind of doing the business as our backup to Romero. And it was really recently that he got injured, actually. Yeah, it was in a match in December against Manchester United. He like did the whole like player chat thing. He's like, I want to play manager. And I was like, sure, why not? Just sitting in the game shouldn't be too big of a deal, but I guess it kind of is based on how the stand. Like we lost that match 1-2, and which kind of that's how Manchester United's ahead of us at the top of the table. And Tanganga picked up a groin injury, which put him out for 3 weeks, so probably 1 or 2 more weeks in game, and he'll be back. But in terms of loans and whatnot, Harvey White, a loan at LAFC. Sorry. In the MLS, he's kind of going to be our Basuma replacement, just because he's young. His overall potential stuff's going to be a lot lower. And he's not going to complain as much as Basuma is. You know, his morale is happy now. It was like pretty low. You kind of see he's got 3 thumbs down. So he'll kind of be moved on as he has 2 years left in his deal, and Harvey White will be kind of his replacement. So homegrown, club trained player, and all that jazz. Hapsar, he's actually on loan at Benfica, our Champions League opponents, though he hasn't made any appearances for them in the Champions League, so he probably won't play against us in that match, in those kind of round of 16 legs, but he's on loan at Benfica. Kind of grow his overall before we move him on. Alfie Devine, another one who's kind of going to slot in to replace Brian Heel, who's kind of right here below him, who's having a pretty decent season, I think, with 2 goals, 1 assist, not bad. But Alfie Devine will kind of replace him. He's on loan at AZ in the Dutch Eredivisie. Well, his overall's growing. Should be 70 potentially by the end of the season, which I kind of think is decent enough because it's like the green color. Green is good. and all that jazz. He should be good enough to fill in as. I don't think, does he have any stats? No, he is not. 'Cause I'm guessing they're not in any of the European competitions, so we're not in the Champions League, so we don't see any of his stats. He should replace Brian Hill next season. I think Hill currently has 3 years left of his contract. Next season will be 2. We'll move him on, and Devine can kind of fill in as Paqueta's backup. And the last 2 loans are our kind of young strikers. We got Troy Parrott, who his potential in this game is an 80, which is pretty decent. So he will probably end up being, when Richarlison ends up with 2 years left on his deal, he will become Harry Kane's backup. He's got 72 overall, which is pretty decent. And he can fill in when need be in the cups and whatnot as a backup. And all that jazz. Then Dane Scarlett, who's a little bit younger. I mentioned. Sorry. Parrott's on loan at Fenerbahce. I don't know how to pronounce Fenerbahce. That's in the Turkish league. He's on loan there, like one of the 2 big clubs there. And then Dane Scarlett, he's on loan at BSC Young Boys, which is a Swiss, I think, or a Swedish club team. He's growing. He'll kind of still, because he's only 19, he'll be kind of sent out on loan a couple more times. Somehow his potential kind of eclipses that. His overall eclipses Parrott's. They're kind of basically competing to be Harry Kane's backup when Richarlison's sold. The one with the higher overall will be the backup. The one with the lower overall will be moved on out, because that's kind of the ruthless world we live in, where we can only fit some really players in the squad and whatnot. But I could potentially just keep both, because the way I'm kind of, see, I've already trimmed the squad down from what was like 39, almost 40, to 31, and this 31 also includes like a bunch of these CPU generated players that I kind of have here chilling about on loan, because one of the more frequent youth objectives I've seen is like you have to sell like X amount of youth players, so I might as well keep these guys around, send them out on loan a bajillion times until that objective kind of comes up next season or the season after, depending on how many seasons left with Hugo in this kind of series. Good to keep them around till then. So the squad size is going to be kind of relatively small if you take out those guys as well. So I could technically keep Scarlett around as a club-trained player as well, potentially to then also kind of get rid of Brandon Austin, bring in a more capable backup keeper. So who knows? But he's only 19, so he'll kind of be sent out a couple more times. Parrott, though, is 21 going on 22. So that's why he's going to be kind of count as the registered 25 squad members, and he'll replace Richarlison. So that's kind of it, I think, in terms of this initial update. As you kind of saw, our next match is FA Cup. We'll see how that goes. The rest of the season goes, hopefully. Unless we kind of contention the title race of the Premier League and the knockout stage of the Champions League and still in the FA Cup. We can add something else to the UEFA Super Cup as our piece of silverware this season. Hopefully we can kind of match last season with the 2 pieces of silverware, potentially even 3 if things go our way. But that should be it for me now. I think now you're going to see, I think it's footage like of a Kane hat trick from a game I played at some point in the season, and us kind of celebrating hoisting up the UEFA Super Cup. But that has been it for me for now, and thank you for watching.
Full time it is, and a morale boosting 3 points on the board to begin their European campaign.
Yeah, it's so vital to get off to a quick start in these group stages. They'll be happy with the 3 points, but now they have to back it up in the next game. 6 points and you're halfway there.
He might be able to make it through. Kane. And they have. You've got to say, it has been coming.
Oh, Derek, what a chance this is.
Majestic goal, volleyed home with precision and style. A goal! How about that? He's put it away. to make it a hat-trick. Not all that convincing defensively. A goal! And I'll tell you what, on this sort of form, very few would lay a glove on them. And full-time, most satisfying, a victory in the curtain raiser to the season.
Well, it's certainly a good way to start the season. That's just what they wanted. They played really well today, and it's always great to keep winning trophies.
First piece of silverware, and that is never to be sniffed at, as the players applaud the fans who have been backing them today.
Well, it's great preparation for the season, Derek, and this is always a nice moment, going up to lift any trophy. Great for those fans as well.
Now for the trophy lift. And with friends and family in attendance, you've always got to really savour these moments when they come around, Stuart.
Well, they've got to enjoy this, Derek, and then get ready for a tough season ahead. They won't be celebrating too much tonight.
Absolutely, Stuart. They all know the show must go on after this. And now the players posing for the images that will be sent around the world.
Well, these are great moments, aren't they? Certainly ones to cherish, and there will be more of this come the end of the season.